Yo, yo, what's up, folks? This Impact, and I want to take this time to welcome you all back to the Hurt Business 101. Let's get right into this video, man. This video, I want to give you guys a recap and my thoughts about the outcome of this fight between Teofimo Lopez and Jermaine Ortiz that went down last night. Let's go. Listen, man, this fight was not an action-packed fight, but I'll break it down and let you guys know how I felt about it. I did go live last night. For those of y'all that tuned into the live, I appreciate it. I understand it was Thursday. It was late. I don't have a lot of subscribers anyway, so for me to get about 30-something people in there, that pretty much was good enough for me. So thanks for showing up, and I hope you enjoyed the live. Listen, from the very beginning, I saw these guys come out in round one and start to fill each other out. And it was just like, distance measuring, trying to throw a few feints here and there to see if they could get the other guy to bite on some things so that they can put in their memory banks to store, collecting that data going forward. But one thing I don't think Teofimo Lopez anticipated, just like many of us didn't anticipate, that Ortiz would come out in a southpaw stance. The southpaw stance that he came out in, it wasn't like he just did it real quick to change up the look and try to throw Teofimo off. He came out in a southpaw stance and he stayed there. So right away, he nullified. I knew they were going to nullify each other's jabs in their lead hands and make those pretty much irrelevant. Teofimo Lopez was doing a lot of walking forward in the beginning. And I said from the beginning, I thought he was taking an aggressive approach as far as not by his actions, because in the beginning of the fight, sometimes he can just come out and charge like he did against George Kambosos. But I believe he learned from that, but he still did take a aggressive posture with coming out on the front foot. And I seen Ortiz take the posture of, I'm going on the back foot. So right away, I noticed it didn't look like we were going to get into too many lunges with those two coming together, because I just thought that Ortiz was taking a posture of he's not doing it. And I suggested that he didn't do that. However, what I believe he needed to do, now what he did was he did a lot of movement, circling left, circling right, taking steps on the back foot while Teo was coming forward. And Teo was unable to cut off the ring. He really showed, he really looked like novice-like when it came to cutting off the ring. He is not really good at tracking guys down unless he already has them hurt and are they backed up against the ropes, and then he'll explode on them. But he's not really a good fighter when it comes to like tracking a guy down. And I think Ortiz did a good job in that way, making him continue to come to him. And Teo had an open gate, and he didn't cut off any escape routes. So Ortiz was able to circle out left, circle out right. He was able to fire off and turn, and he had every escape route available to him. Teo didn't do a good job of cutting off at least one route so that he would only have one option to escape, and he can kind of run him into a shot while he was trying to escape. Teo didn't do a good job, and unfortunately for Teo, that continued throughout the night. Ortiz left some points on the board. You know what I mean? He left some things on the table that he could have used in that fight to further help his case. For instance, early in the fight, I knew he should keep turning, and I knew Teo would be able to stay with him on the turns. He would throw a shot before the turn, and then after the turn, he wasn't firing anything away. And I started speaking on it during the live. And just as I started speaking on it, he started punching off of his turns. But he stopped throwing the shot before the turn. You know what I mean? And then I expected it. I thought he should throw the shot before and after the turn, followed up with a combination. He didn't do that. He didn't throw many combinations in this fight. He did a lot of single shots. I think he went with some of the Bernard Hopkins stabbing grab. There was a few times I think he lost his focus, and he got a little bit one-dimensional with the way he tried to escape, and Teofimo Lopez was able to crack him with a couple hard right hands consecutively, and that kind of woke him up. And he did begin to get back focused. After that, they ultimately, with the southpaw and the right-handed stance coming forward, one of the very few times they both came forward at the same time, we got a head clash. Got a head clash caused an accidental headbutt. No foul on Teofimo Lopez. That's just what happens sometimes. Conventional southpaw coming forward, their heads can bang. He caused the cut. And I did see a little bit of panic. It looked like it was going to set in on Ortiz, but his corner did a real good job. You know what I mean? Because Tio started getting aggressive once he saw the cut because nothing was really going his way. He had finally found a lane where he could go up in there and try to manipulate that cut. So I think that kind of rejuvenated him because he had started showing a lot of frustration, marching forward, slamming his gloves together, backing up, saying things to the crowd, calling Ortiz in. And to his surprise, when he called Ortiz to come to him, I'm thinking he expected Ortiz to kind of like rush in and lunge. Ortiz wouldn't do it though. He would just step, jab his way in, make his way on the inside and get in a few exchanges with Tio, and he would never give Tio the lunges that he was looking for so he can catch him with something coming in. He never gave it to him. I think Ortiz really should have stood his ground a little bit more and allow Ortiz and allow Teofimo to get emboldened and jump in so that he can catch him with some straight shots, because that ultimately would have stopped Tio from coming forward as much. But he chose to employ the game plan that he had, which was the Matador role that I think he played close to perfection. He could have thrown a little bit more punches and put some more offense together, but I still think he did enough to win that fight last night. And let me get into this right now, man. It was not a stellar performance by either guy, but and to win fights, you don't have to be stellar. See, they got this thing going on, and this is where I get pissed off, because they've been selling this bullshit to the fans for so long. You know what I mean? These commentators, most of which, and I don't like to talk about who didn't fight and who did fight. That's irrelevant sometimes. But these commentators, you know what I mean? They grab onto they create these cliches and they pass them down from generation to generation as if they really have knowledge on what they're talking about. Listen, all of that, you got to beat the champion. You don't have to beat the hell out of the champion in order to win, because judges do not judge fights after the fight is over, look at it in its totality and say, well, I felt like he was coming forward more and this guy was doing a lot of moving, so I'm not giving it to him. Judges have a responsibility to judge these rounds after the round is over, make a determination of that round. They're supposed to mark the round down and forget about it. They don't have the benefit like fans do, as far as we can sit there and watch a whole fight in its entirety and then decide what do we feel happened. That's not how judging works. And judging fights is not CompuBox. CompuBox is a guy basically playing a video game. His interpretation of when a punch lands and when a punch didn't land. And a lot of times, subtle shots, these guys don't see it. And they don't really understand what they're watching. Sometimes they just program almost like the amateur system to count the punches. It's a way to give a guy a job in boxing when, to keep a stat that's really irrelevant, because professional boxing isn't judged like amateur boxing where that stuff matters. So it's effective aggressiveness, where Tio was not effective with his aggressiveness because it didn't lead to anything. It didn't lead to trapping his opponent. It didn't lead to cutting off escape routes and putting some punishment and hurt on his opponent. He just followed him around the entire night. He didn't show great defense. He didn't show great ring generalship. The few clean punches he did land were the big shots, and he did do some little stabs to the body. You get credit for your body work. I don't want to take credit away from the guy. I got nothing against him for his body work. But, man, when a guy deserves to get his hand raised, I don't give a damn if he deserved to get his hand raised. See, what happens is Ortiz is a guy that no one cares about. So the sport of boxing will sweep that up underneath the rug. Like, hey, nobody's going to make an uproar about Ortiz getting robbed here. He deserved to get his hand raised. I don't care And I'm not one of these guys that like to say every close fight is a robbery, because I don't have a pick in this fight on who I want to win. I've actually picked T.O. to win in my prediction. We all like to see our predictions come true, but if he win or lose, I'm going to call it like I see it. And the way I saw it, he was ineffective. The only guy who had a clear-cut plan on what he was able to do, what he wanted to do, and actually executed what he wanted to do to a high enough degree to win that fight was Ortiz. Lopez was lost. He was clueless on how to cut off the ring. He could not figure out how to run his opponent into something. That's his responsibility. And listen, T.O. has nothing to do with judges' decisions. So this is not on T.O. This judging, this is a problem across boxing. We see it too many times where some poor bastard like Ortiz, because he's not the guy that everyone's looking forward to seeing in the big fights. You got a promotion that's geared around, and the commentary is so biased. During the live, I actually did not want their commentary interfering with what I had to say. So I actually had to cut my volume down so that I could just talk to you guys about what I see without listening to what they're talking about, because I already know how this thing goes. And here it is. We had Timothy Bradley. He did his best to keep it 100 last night. And you got 3 other guys on the panel with him, because I watched the post fight to see what they had to say. They're trying to tell Tim Bradley what he just saw. Tim Bradley don't get him all right like I don't get him all right. Tim Bradley chose Teofimo Lopez. He picked Teofimo Lopez to win. He's been high on T.O. So has Paulie. So has Chris Algieri. They all believe he's the best at 140. He's not going to all of a sudden change up and try to act like Lopez is this bum that he wasn't picking against, but he got to keep it real. Ortiz deserved to get his hand raised last night. Nobody's going to speak up on it. Those guys with the commentary, they always do the bidding of the A-side fighter. That's the guy that's being pushed by that particular promotional company that they're working for. This happens all the time. Top Rank, they famous for it. You know what I mean? Painting these narratives, and we got to stop all of that stuff. Which you gotta take it to the champion. They said that several times on the panel. They was frustrating the hell out of Timothy Bradley. He was trying to keep it together. They had an attitude with him because he wouldn't jump on and get on that bandwagon with him, and he just had to be forced to keep it real, even after singing T.O.'s praises for months on end, even calling Teofimo Lopez the best in the 140-pound division. Listen, man, I'm sorry. Can't nobody sit up here and tell me what I just watched. I just watched Teofimo Lopez lose that fight. And the one judge that had it 117, 111 should be fired, fined. He should never be able to judge any fights, amateur or professional. But he'll be right back on the job again because he did his job. He did exactly what he was hired to do last night. And I said it. And I said it during the live. I felt it coming. I said, listen, Ortiz need to pick it up, because some of these things he doing, although it's good, he going to help them justify robbing them. Because even though I believe it was a robbery, all they need to do is, see, he was moving, he was running and backing up, and he wasn't engaging, because I seen this movie before. This happens over and over and over again. They sell it to the fans. This somehow you got to beat the living daylights out of the champion or the A-side guy that they're pushing at that particular time in order to get your hand raised. It's not right. The game of boxing is definitely corrupt. It always has been. That was despicable, and I really felt gutted for Ortiz last night. And I got no favoritism towards Ortiz. You know what I mean? Because in all actuality, for T.O. to win, it opened up a whole lot more. It will open up a whole lot more big fights for us in the sport of boxing. So a lot of times people do, even if they're not picking a guy, they do kind of understand, like, it'll be better for boxing if this guy wins. I don't really stand on that fence, because I just believe, shit, if this guy win the fight, then obviously he was the better fighter that night. So he deserves to move forward and get an opportunity in the bigger fights. But you know what, man, Ortiz, I hope they don't screw this poor bastard over and now use this fight as a way to say, you know what, we're gonna push him off to the side and we're not gonna get him back out there. I really want to see Ortiz get an opportunity to get back out there. Teofimo Lopez has also proven that he is still inconsistent. He is almost like those actors that they call typecast. If you're not coming to him, if you're not jumping in, if you don't have slow hands where he can just stand in there with you and beat you to the punching exchanges or get into his groove and do what he wants to do, if you know how to move, you know how to box, you know how to take half steps back and counter, you know how to turn, you know how to keep him thinking, he's going to have a problem. This is not a one-time thing. It's happened on a couple other occasions, and he's going to have a problem going forward getting up in there with guys that can really box. Listen, man, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the Hurt Business 101. You know what they say, it's no business like show business, but I say it's no business like the hurt business. 1-0-1, done.